This is Dr. Song, dying far from home. I did it. I saw you, named you, dragged you into the light. Telomyces mosaica. That's a fitting name for an endlessly mutating killer. And you're part of something bigger than yourself, aren't you? You waited in the soil for us to sow our seeds, the ones we brought with us. You infected our crops, and then you infected our people. And this planet, something here protected you from us. The way our AI should have protected us from you. It corrupted Darius. Sabotaged our every attempt to understand what was happening or how to stop it. You know, you can colonize my blood and liquefy my bones, but I figured you out. Still not sure what's helping you. What made you into a weapon? Guess I'll never know. I do know I got off easy. I get to grow here. Part of this world that I never understood. I get to dream. What awaits the others is an ancient nightmare. Cold, lonely, and endless, perishing cycle.
We are here today with some marathon lore. What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Coreboy back at it again today with a new video. I didn't call y'all oddballs today, which is a little weird, but it's okay. It's okay. Anyway, we are here to talk about some marathon lore because I really want to talk about this quest set because I've been thinking about it for the last couple of days since I went through and finished it, and it has been in my brain since I have finished it. Now, this is a part of the last set of new caloric quests for this season, at least. It is called the Paradigm Shift, and man, I gotta be honest, this might be, at least lore wise, my favorite set of quests that I have done in this game so far. Everything surrounding the story beats of it are like really unsettling, and it really, I think, just sets the mysteriousness that is Marathon. You start out with going on this quest to go scan some contagion and find a Dr. Song. And while you were doing that, you go to a bunch of different areas on the map perimeter. And as you were doing it, it leads you to this taken over recon shell. At least it looks like a recon shell. It could just be like a placeholder to show that someone died there. But whenever I was doing this quest and then went through and listened to all of the codex entries after I finished them all, it was so interesting to me because it really shows a lot about the planet of Tau Ceti and how not only is there like no real like natural wildlife that we've seen other than the ticks, of course, but also like how dangerous this planet can be and what we could see in the future of Marathon. And it just sticks with me so hard. And as you all have probably heard at the beginning of the video, I played the little audio log you get from Dr. Song after you complete that quest. And I feel like it teaches you a lot about maybe things that you see in the world of Marathon, things like the anomaly or the weird toxin plants, and kind of points towards maybe these things are a lot more connected than what we think they are. Of course, I haven't done all of the contracts yet for every single faction. I also haven't got all the codex entries for every area, which I will be doing independent videos for each of those as I complete them. I have a couple in store. So if you'd like for me to talk about some lore stuff, I'm going to talk about it. But we are going to dive into here to the Paradigm Shift Part 2 because I think there's a lot to learn here, and it involves the quarantine stuff that we hear about on Outposts. And as we hear about it, I got really involved with it. I was like, I don't know what this is necessarily about. What are we quarantining from? And this kind of points towards it just a little bit. So we are going to read over this and talk about it a little bit more. Ah, there we go. Look back to our normal screen. Now, as I said here, we are going to read down through all of this. So, of course, it says analyzing here at the top, file type encrypted UESC alert, period, the colony era, topic quarantine enforcement, and a bit of a summary to, I guess, summarize how the whole thing is going to read out here, which is encrypted alert from general read of the UESC quarantine enforcement sent shortly before quarantine instructions for the general public, annotation by unknown UESC soldier. And then, of course, over here at the top, confidential quarantine selection and enforcement. For colonists who are mildly ill with only physical symptoms, isolation can be discontinued in 2 weeks. If physical symptoms do not mutate, full monitoring PPE should be worn at home and in public spaces for an additional 2 weeks. If physical symptoms mutate, the 2 week isolation period must reset. If psychological disturbances are observed, proceed to the following set of instructions. Of course, that then goes into the next piece, which is for colonists who are moderately ill or display any psychological disturbances. Isolation cannot be discontinued without military sanction. Treat isolation ward as a Class B mutation site for security purposes, including the use of automated enforcement. Serial testing is required for ongoing contagion research. And then next, for colonists who are severely ill with novel physical and psychological symptoms, isolation cannot be discontinued under present circumstances. Restrict all communications except with authorized medical staff. Additional guidance TBD. And then at the end here, we have a little bit of I guess a little bit of a talk from another character, which is probably the unknown UESC soldier that it talks about here at the top. Is RF. Seriously, what does this mean? Pray that someone on Earth cracked FTL if there's anything left of us by then. Now, this whole thing, reading this, is really what sucked me in, is talking about the quarantine involving the contagion that we hear about from the audio log from Dr. Song. Of course, we don't know a lot about this contagion yet, and we are still kind of, I guess, figuring some things out, which I would be surprised if they get answered in the codex entries as we start finding those, which honestly, I am so excited to read about. But this is really, really interesting to me, because in other things you hear about how you don't really want to be isolated when it comes to coming to a new planet. There's like some of the issues of getting out of cryo sleep and overall getting accompanied to the actual planet itself. And it seems like something, at least at this point, has broken out that they cannot contain. Now, we kind of get an idea of what can happen here is with mild illnesses, which I would assume are just typical things whenever you are sick, but also there is psychological disturbances that come with this. Now, when we hear about the anomaly a little bit within the game, we know that everyone kind of experiences the anomaly differently. Some will say it sounds like it's singing, sometimes it sounds like screaming, sometimes it hears like music. And I think it all depends on your overall mental state. And I feel like that's kind of what this is leading to is these psychological disturbances kind of are the like screaming that you may hear when it comes to the anomaly, and none of the more I guess positive side effects of it. And to me, this reads honestly kind of terrifying because you do in other codex entries kind of see some characters experience this firsthand, which I'm going to do a separate video on because I do think it is a very, very interesting part. There's a whole lore series or codex series from a certain character who is working at the Holler and Perimeter who seems to have been it contaminated himself, and it reads really, really interestingly. And I feel like this right here kind of shows a full look at what the UESC was trying to do to keep this contagion under control by quarantining individuals, making sure that if they were, meeting certain criteria, hey, don't let them in public, keep them away from people. Now, do we know if that's for good or bad purposes? It could be for studying. Some of them could be to actually keep others safe. That's one thing kind of about Marathon that I like a lot is there's blurred lines in everything. Not everything is 100% true and is 100% set to the best standard. But right here, at least we read through and we see that they are clearly taking a lot of enforcement to make sure that these people do not get out and force this contagion to be spread amongst everybody. Which seemingly didn't really work out. It seems like that is the route that it did end up going. Most of the people in Tau Ceti seemingly did not survive, if any at all. We're not 100% on that yet, as it seems. But I would assume probably no one did it. They probably wiped the face of the planet, knowing that they could not get back to the marathon. So yeah, then we are going to dive into the next piece.
Citizens of New Cascadia, thank you for your attention and patience. I won't keep you all in suspense. You asked for concrete updates, so that's what you'll hear. With careful rationing, our emergency food stockpiles will last at least 3 years. This frugality buys precious time for the research teams, working around the clock to study the contagion and restore agricultural production. While I am hopeful for a cure, it is not our only option. Our engineers believe that the original landing craft could be relaunched to the Marathon. It is our best means of evacuation if the need arises. I won't pretend this is easy. Seeing our loved ones under quarantine, feeling the ground and air shift around us. It's enough to make anyone lose hope. And I'm not asking for hope. Just remembrance. Please remember that we are still here. Remember that we only have each other.
Of course, you all probably just heard the little broadcast section from part 3, which I guess gives a little bit of an idea of how forward some of the members of the UESC were towards individuals, which is honestly kind of a good thing to see from the UESC, because in this game, the UESC is kind of painted as the ultimate bad guys with Orion, for example. But right there, we see, them coming forward and, giving them the concrete talk about rations and things of that nature. So I feel like that's definitely one thing that I liked seeing was the bit of a difference in the UESC. But then we get into part 4 here of the paradigm shift, which is looking at medical AI remnants. So we're going to read through this little file here. File type unknown, metadata corrupted detected, period unknown, metadata corruption detected. Topic, contagion research fragments. Summary, limited excerpts of colony era contagion research from the remains of Gabriel, the colony's medical AI. The extraction of the anomalous sample appears to have caused irreparable damage to Gabriel's neural architecture. So we're going to read through this, and we're going to see a bit of a turn here with Gabriel reading through this. So, subroutine. Bulk analysis of necrotic intestinal tissue. Sample size, 26 samples from 23 descendants. Population, all descendants were between the ages of 18 and 65, patients of the high security isolation ward. Sample dated from error, atemporal corruption. Cycle 1, novel exception error, cycle aborted. Cycle 2, novel exception error, cycle aborted. Cycle 42, potential isolation of novel exception, cycle progressing. Cycle 616, isolation pending. Cycle 9000, isolation pending. Cycle 7777, isolation successful. Cycle 777778, authorizing containment procedures for temp designation anomalous sample. Cycle 818181, error, signal breach. Psych 0000, and then in binary, it is seen. I had to go through and put that through a binary translator because I figured that's kind of what that was, and it does. It just means seen. As if this message was sent to someone. We don't know who exactly. Could it have been sent to the UESC for sure, but could it have been sent somewhere else? Not 100% sure. But reading through this, of course, you see a little bit of decline in Gabriel as they are trying to process these samples from the actual anomaly. We see the cycle 1 and 2 kind of went well. We don't see 3 through 41. It seems like it had skipped to 42. And we see some different things here. It's a little bit interesting knowing how this anomaly could have possibly interacted with an AI system. The best way that whenever I was reading this, the first thing that I really thought of is actually kind of pertaining to Halo, for example, with the logic plague from the Flood. I don't know why, but this kind of gave me that same feeling of, can the anomaly not only affect people but affect systems? And that was something that really stuck with this from me. It was such an interesting read, and then of course, like having the little binary here at the bottom and going through and figuring out what it meant was also telling of, well, who did this get sent to? If this an AI is malfunctioning clearly, what did it send it to? Did it send it to the Marathon, which would have meant something like the compiler would have got a hold of it? Or did this get sent to the UESC? That we don't know yet. And genuinely, I think it's a really interesting part of this whole thing, knowing now that the anomaly, if you play Dire Marsh, you should know what the anomaly is. It's that giant fucking wall that surrounds the middle of the map. And if you walk near it, and from what I've at least noticed on different shells, when you walk near it, it actually kind of sounds different. When I'm playing from like assassin to thief, or thief to vandal, or vandal to destroyer, whoever it may be, I've noticed at all times it kind of sounds a little bit different. They don't hear the exact same things. Now, I don't know if that's just like a change to the anomaly as time goes on or whatnot, or if that's actually a part of the shell's conscience and how it interacts with the anomaly, because we really don't know a lot about the anomaly yet. And it's genuinely, like, I think, a super interesting piece of the map Dire Marsh. While I don't like Dire Marsh for a multitude of reasons, genuinely, I think this is one of the most interesting pieces of story we have got so far in Marathon, and I feel like this whole section of quests really set it in. And going over all of that, let me know what you all think about it. I want to know how you all are feeling about the Marathon story, and if you would like to see more videos where I go through and read some of these codexes and such and talk about it a little bit. And lastly, I'm going to leave you with the last piece of codex we get for the paradigm shift. It is a very unnerving audio. It's just called Soundscape, and I would assume that is possibly, at least from what I can understand, what I get from this quest, it's noises from within inside the anomaly, and it is very unsettling. I remember whenever I opened this codex after I completed the final quest, and I was going through and listening to it, I was like, this is unnerving. This is kind of terrifying. So I want to know what you all feel. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this down below, and yeah, later, guys.